It's just plain wrong that middle-class Americans pay a higher share of their income in taxes than some millionaires and billionaires.
Of course, that President Obama last week pushing the so-called Buffett rule, which would require millionaires to at least pay at the same effective tax rate as the middle class, about 30%. The Senate just voted on the measure, and the measure failed. Not exactly a huge surprise. But in the meantime, Mitt Romney hasn't released his returns. We're going to be talking about tax returns and that in a second. But Dominic, I'll be the first to admit you got a better finger on this in terms of the public pulse than I do. Is this going to play? We saw the 99 and Occupy. I know where Richard feels on this, but does this help frame the argument of the president to say, listen, there's two sets of rules in this country?
Yes.
One if you make 7 figures and the other if you don't?
Yes. The president, one thing Mr. Obama is excellent at, it's playing a game of high-stakes chess. And right now, the game is he's playing it so well, he's boxing the Republicans in. And whether you agree with his policies or not, he's boxing them in for America, saying, look, those are the guys making all the money, referring to the Republicans. Those are the guys that want two sets of rules. So he's forcing them to take a stand. Either you do what you traditionally do, which is defend the rich, or you buck that system. And they're not going to go against the wealthy. They're going to defend it. So Obama is playing chess, and he's doing quite well at it right now.
It's interesting, Howard. When you actually read some of the deductions that Romney would want to get rid of, even in the Ryan plan, they go farther than you would be led to believe they do. But you ask any average person, and I philosophically believe it's legitimate, we'll debate that one, and poll after poll shows overwhelmingly that there's too much income inequality and not enough opportunity to move up. And the perception is the GOP is protecting the status quo when the president, whether you like it or not, is trying to close the gap. How in an election year where it's about the economy does that help or not significantly hurt the Republicans?
Well, I think you have to treat your voters intelligently. The Buffett rule, for instance, was a pointless exercise, except, as Dominic says, as a political tool. Because you're talking about $5 billion a year in increased tax revenue if the Buffett plan goes into effect. That's at a time, for instance, when the losses from the United Auto Workers bailout amounts to about $24 billion. So the money you're talking about is a drop in a bucket. So you're absolutely right. The president wanted the Republicans to do the responsible thing, the right thing, and reject this pointless piece of legislation. And he will now go up and down the country saying, oh, look, this represents something. All it represents is that the Republicans are serious about passing laws that, as the deductions you were talking about, the Romney plan, are actually going to help us along the way in reducing the deficit disaster we have coming down the road, and not simply throwing up political
how
clay
cutting
pigeons.
Taxes will save us from deficit spending is beyond me. But
$5 billion.
Wait a minute.
You've spent more than $5 billion in your legislative career.
And you're welcome. But that's not the point. It is, let's say, only $5 billion. But to say that that's an illegitimate exercise is to say the President of the United States should not talk about concepts like fairness and shared burden. Political leadership requires not just to be an accountant. It requires you to be able to express to the people your vision of what constitutes fairness.
Right. In all fairness,
and when Buffett's paying a lower rate than the secretary, there's something unfair about that.
The tax system is not here to settle class grudges. It's here to create a vibrant, growing economy.
Class grudges? If you're saying that a system that allows his secretary to pay a higher rate than he pays is about class grudges, you know what? You may be right. But it's also about fairness. And what, as Dominic said, this president is very competently framing the issue as a fairness issue. And if all you've got in response to that is, well, it's only $5 billion worth of fairness, you're going to lose.
All right, let me get to the next question on the subject of taxes. And this is about, we either covered or you guys have managed or actually ran campaigns. Mitt Romney's taxes. Obama lays out his taxes here. We're going to go back 12 years. We know what he's paid, what he's made. Again, it was a major problem, at least for a week or so there for Romney in the primary process. But now again, he's asking for an extension before he's going to release or not. We ought to remember the 14%. We ought to remember the Cayman Islands. We all know the narrative here,
elevator?
right? Come on now. Is he dragging this thing out? It's going to hurt him at the end?
Yeah, I don't know why, but we all know that the truth of the matter is, as long as they come out within a month of the election, and as long as there's nothing there.
Why not get it out now?
I don't know. I have no idea why it isn't out now. But maybe maybe he's as good a politician as the president can be. Maybe he wants people like Richard and Dominic to keep on yelling about this for 3 or 4 more months, and then when it comes out, there's nothing there. We've all been in that situation.
That is a possibility. He could be a genius. On the other hand,
Right.
All right, we're going to jump
On the
to a
other
break.
hand.